Welcome back, Exiles. First off, I want to thank everyone that watched and commented on my previous video. I appreciate it a lot. I'm still having a blast with this build, and the discussions I've had around it has been the icing on the cake. I will absolutely take this character to level 100 this league. It's just that much fun. As I mentioned in the end of the last video, my goal was to acquire a Mage Blood to fix my critical hit chance inconsistency and get more zoomy. As of this morning, I achieved this goal. Having said that, as this is meant to serve as a build guide not only for the ultra wealthy, I decided to only show footage of a non-Mage Blood used character. There are some quite expensive items included, but I can guarantee you that you won't regret it if you decide to put some extra hours and divines into this build, or any of its variations. I will include a conclusion / too long didn't watch / discussion part at the end of the video, so for those of you who are impatient, I will have timestamps below. But I've dragged this out for long enough. Let's get to the guide. For our passive skill tree, our main goal is to pick up as much critical hit chance as we can. As Coiling Bolt's base crit chance is only 7% and it's very hard to scale. And since we've decided to play as low life, we pick up Pain Attunement here on the left, alongside Final Barrage. We then pick up Zone of Control and its preceding nodes to get more area of effect on our Blasphemy setup. And as our main defense lies in an evasion energy shield hybrid setup, we pick up such nodes wherever we can, including Spectral Ward, which becomes a core part of our defense. We also pick up Step like Mist and Shimmering, specifically for the movement speed bonuses. We pick up both Turn the Clock Back and Turn the Clock Forward to fuel our Against the Darkness duel that gives us extra spirit. Later on we'll get a From Nothing duel that allows us to allocate nodes in the vicinity of Conduit. We'll pick up Mental Alacrity, Tempered Mind and Storm Driven. We also have a Control Metamorphosis located here, which allow us to pick up several very strong nodes like Heavy Buffer, Hallowed and Infusion of Power. We're also making good use of weapon set passives. In weapon set 1 we focus on damage for our coiling bolts, picking up nodes such as Cut to the Bone, Shredding Force and Bone Chains, and allocating as many critical damage bonus nodes as we can. In weapon set 2 we instead focus on the potency of our weapon swapped curses, picking up nodes such as Master of Hexes, Lingering Whispers, Fated End and Royal. As for Ascendancy points, we begin with Soulless Form, which basically makes mana a non-issue and makes it so 10% of damage taken bypass our energy shield. For our second node we pick Eternal Life, which is basically the bread and butter of the Lich Ascendancy. Your life cannot change while you have energy shield allow for some very strong mechanical interactions. As an example with the previous node that 10% of damage taken bypasses energy shield, along with the node Heavy Buffer allow for 15% of all damage taken to bypass energy shield. But because we have Eternal Life, that damage taken cannot do damage to our life, effectively making us remove 15% of all damage as long as we have energy shield. For our remaining 2 Ascendancies we have a couple of options. Crystalline Phylactery allow us to socket a non-unique jewel into it and it gains 100% increased effect. Jewels are very strong in PoE2, so if you can get a good one, this is most likely the best third choice. Rupture the Flesh is probably the most satisfying node of the entire Ascendancy, and by far the best choice if all you want to do is clear maps fast. Exploding enemies is always a very strong investment. Umbral Well is a very versatile node as it allows us to gain Umbral Souls, granting us powerful bonuses instead of skeletal minions. For our build, the best one would be the Skeletal Frost Mages for increased energy shield. Unfortunately, however, there are no bonuses that give critical hit chance. I would also like to give an honorable mention to Unwilling Offering, as it would allow us to use offering skills on callable enemies and gain bonus of said offering ourselves. These offerings are very powerful, but unfortunately there is no offering that gives us critical hit chance, so it's not a very good option as of now. So our choice for now will be Crystalline Phylactery and Umbral Well. Once we have invested in enough energy shield, we're swapping Umbral Well to Rupture the Flesh for improved clear speed while mapping. But for more difficult content like Pinnacle bosses, we will swap back to Umbral Well, as Rupture the Flesh has no use in those encounters. As for gear, there is only 3 pieces I'd say are mandatory for this particular iteration of Liminal Coil. As for the main part of the build, your Liminal Coil should have as high gain as extra fizz and chaos as possible, optimally corrupted with 2 sockets, and in those sockets you should have a Hedge Witch Ascendancy Rune of Wisdom and a Legacy of Life Sprig for a total of +3 to all spell skills, the latter one being a chase item for sure, very expensive. And as for our offhand, for our spirit stacking build, you want a Threading Light, optimally with a 14 or 15% spell damage per 10 spirit corruption. And for the third mandatory item, an Alpha's Howl with as high a spirit corruption as possible, and make sure it has a socket. As for bases and rolls, it will depend on if you're going pure energy shield or evasion energy shield, the latter being more expensive and requiring spectral ward to function. And make sure to fill up your items with the resistances and whatever attributes you need where possible. As for more specific affixes to look out for, there is a new marksman rune that allows us to get +2 projectile skills on our gloves, which would affect coiling bolts. For the body armor, we want a tier 1 spirit roll. As for boots, we want at least 30% movement speed, preferably 35 to zoom through the maps. But there is also a new mystic rune to look out for that allows us to reroll a suffix into 10 to 15 spirit. As for our accessories, I would highly recommend getting a Chevron satchel belt. It's a super strong early game alternative for the Lich due to how it interacts with Eternal Life, allowing us to always use it and have a massive boost of energy shield recovery. But it only works if you're missing a little bit of life, so make sure that happens, and you can roll a more recovery if used while on low life on a flask, and or use Herbalism 1 or 2 for even more recovery. As for the amulet, we're looking for plus level of all spell skills, high spirit, and the crafted modifier global armor, evasion, and energy shield. And we want to instill it with efficient descriptions. This will likely be a very expensive item for the build. As for our rings, I use a grip of Kulamak with 2% cast speed per 20 spirit. As a spirit stacker, it's a fun item to build around. There's also other good stats on it, like area of effective curses, spirit if over 200 intelligence, chaos resistance, and so on. But by no means is this mandatory. You can use a normal ring with resistances and life, or one of the new breach rings that has some insane caster stats on them. As for jewels, we use 3 unique ones in the build, but they are by no means mandatory. They just allow us to save some point and make the build a little bit stronger. The first one is Controlled Metamorphosis with a very large ring, and Against the Darkness with notables in radius give plus spirit, and eventually a From Nothing that allow you to allocate passive points in radius of Conduit to allow for even better use of Against the Darkness. For rare jewels, the best we can get are a variation of critical hit chance, critical damage bonus, area of effect of curses for quality of life, and percentage energy shield. For the percentage energy shield part, a change was made in 0.5 that allows us to use a distilled ire to add percentage energy shield to any non-corrupted rare jewel by replacing one of the prefix modifiers. And make sure to socket your best non-unique jewel in the crystalline phylactery ascendancy node. And charms are mostly a preference thing and based around the content you do. But for regular mapping, I'd recommend using at least a stone charm and a thawing charm. And then depending what you prefer, a silver charm or a dowsing charm. As for our links and skills, our main skill Coiling Bolts is linked to Chaos Mastery, Extraction, Execute 3, Considered Casting, and Trickster's Shard. This is a single target setup. For general clearing in maps, I switch out Considered Casting for Armor Break 3. That allows us to get endurance charges quite reliably, and I'll explain why in a little bit. And then we have our 2 ground curses that are allocated in our second weapon swap to make use of all the curse nodes we have. Despair for chaos damage and vulnerability for physical damage. Despair is linked to Dodra's Undoing, Heightened Curse, Magnified Area 2, Pinpoint Critical to get more critical weakness stacks in our offhand, and Efficiency. Vulnerability is linked to Hyox's Fulmination, Khaleesi's Crescendo, Heightened Curse, Pinpoint Critical, and Efficiency 2. And then we have Flame Wall that we fire our projectiles through. A lightning-infused Flame Wall gives me an additional 18% more damage about at my current gear level. It's linked to Fire Mastery, Prolonged Duration 2, Efficiency 2, and Fortress 1. And it's quite important that you get Fortress 1 and not Fortress 2, because that one comes with a less area of effect modifier. And then we have the newest addition to the build that replaces Orb of Storms for infusion generation, and that is powered by Verisium. It's linked to efficiency to make sure the ward cost is something we can afford. It allows us to generate 2 Verisium infusions that we then can use to empower our flame wall, and then we fire our projectiles through them. Optimally, we would want to get this to level 13 so we could get 3 infusions at a time, but I can't really afford the ward cost right now, but I'm working on that. It's also important to know that it scales from spell skill levels, so you need to take that into account when you plan for the ward costs. And I would like to give a big shout out to Daniel Green 9417. He suggested this in the comments of my last video, and I had no idea since I had not looked into these skills very much. So big thank you to Daniel. And then we come to all the auras that reserve all of our spirit and most of our life. Starting with the most important one, Blasphemy. It's linked to Temp Chains, Enfeeble, Elemental Weakness, and the new Repulsion curse from Expedition. We also have Ritualistic Curse for more AoE. The level of Blasphemy doesn't really matter because the only thing it gives you is Magnitude of Curses, and we have none because of Liminal Coil. It's very important to get the quality though for the increased reservation efficiency. And then we have my by far most expensive setup on this build, which is Ghost Dance linked to Cooldown Recovery 2. Ghost Dance by itself isn't very expensive. It's not even that good right now because I have too little evasion. What makes it good though is this new support gem at Series Communion. It allows us to reserve life instead of spirit. And as you can see, I have most of my life reserved down here. And I use that reservation for stuff like herbalism, which makes my really strong flask even stronger, since I'm always low life. And another new support gem, Seraph's Heart, which is very strong defensively. And then we have her declaration that intimidate any enemy on the screen, since my presence is very big. And it makes us take 10% less damage from enemies, and we deal 10% more damage to enemies. And make sure to have quality on Ghost Dance, as the 20% increased reservation efficiency also apply to all the supported gems here. And then we have Combat Frenzy, that allow us to get a Frenzy charge whenever we freeze, electrocute, or pin an enemy. It's linked to Charge Profusion 2 for even more charges, and Clarity 2 since I have some extra spirit. And the way we get this Frenzy charge is by pinning our enemies, and that is due to this node here, Bone Chains. Physical spell critical hits build pin. So while mapping, it's up pretty much all the time, and on bosses it's a bit less frequent, but quite often anyway. And the reason we want that Frenzy charge is because of this aura here, Charge Regulation. It gives us more critical hit chance while we have a power charge, more evasion and energy shield while we have an endurance charge, and more skill speed while we have a frenzy charge. During mapping, we have all 3 of these pretty much all the time. During bossing, we always have the power charge, and as I said, sometimes the frenzy charge. And the way we get the other 2 charges is by switching out our single target considered casting for Armor Break 3 while mapping. And it gives us an endurance charge sometimes when we break armor, which is all the time with our damage. It doesn't work that well on bosses though. There is a tech where you can stun the boss and get an endurance charge, but I don't think it's worth losing out the extra single target from another support. And the most important part is the power charges. And it kind of double dips with the tech we had earlier with powered by Verisium and Flame Wall. So whenever we get a Beryllium Infusion, we use it to get a lightning infused flame wall, and that makes us get a power charge as well. And this is due to this passive node right here that we allocate thanks to Control Metamorphosis. It allows us to get a power charge whenever we consume an elemental infusion. And this is by far the most important charge for us, since our coiling bolts critical hit chance is only 36% without charge regulation. And with it, it goes up all the way to 45.76, which is a massive boost. And as for our final aura, we have our Umbral Well Skeletal Frost Mage. I have 3 at the moment, which gives me 105% energy shield. And something to note about this is that the reservation goes down from 39 to 38 once the gem is level 21. So I have a level 20 gem and a minion mastery gem. It is a bit ironic though that I have exactly 3 spirit left, so I didn't need to do this, but I did anyway. So to round things up, Liminal Coil is a clear speed demon and has some pretty respectable single target damage, all things considered. It's probably strong enough to work on any Ascendancy and as any Archetype as long as you can get all the curses. I also believe that pure spirit stacking with Threaded Light and Grip of Kulemak, although fun to try out, loses out to other options in the respective slots. Either a rare foci with +2 all skills or the ever-strong Wrathpith Globe will surely be a stronger option, and the new cost rings from the Breach Tree are incredible. But it was fun to try out nevertheless. If you want to play a relatively low budget version of Liminal Coil, I would recommend making a Blood Mage, as it's quite overtuned for any caster build. I opted for an Abyssal Lich as I wanted to try something different and prefer a more defensive playstyle. Other ascendancies to consider would be Oracle, as another offensive powerhouse with her inevitable critical hits. Infernalist would be another defensively strong ascendancy, with easy spirit from Beta's will, and you'd probably stack mana due to Beta's gaze. And I think Disciple of Rashta would be a very solid all-rounder due to their strong defensive nodes and critical scaling, through Kelari's critical weakness and better time-lost duels. And the new Assyrius Communion support is a fantastic addition for spell builds, and I highly recommend getting it if you can afford it. Being able to reserve life instead of spirit and invest fully into energy shield or mind over matter, while getting very strong low life nodes on the tree, can probably make any spell functional. If you made it this far, I would like to thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or suggestions about the build, please let me know in the comments below. I love a good discussion.
The moon. I answer.
The abyss knocks once. And now, you. Behold, her virtue and compassion. Serenity. Virtuous duplication. The first divine must never return. The enemy returns. Purged! Divinities! You fool. If they obtain the Mother's Soul, our civilization died for nothing.